Hi, welcome to the Beliefs Bazaar. My name is Alex. I'd like to talk a couple minutes about just conspiracy mindset in general. On this channel, I'm going to be focusing a lot on beliefs and the nature of beliefs. And something that I'd like to point out and just have this video for reference early on here is just how detrimental the conspiracy mindset can be in our modern times. And I highly recommend you just Google conspiracy mindset or conspiracy mentality and just read a little bit about the description there. But I'll read the first couple sentences in that result. Conspiracy mentality is a stable, generalized tendency or readiness to interpret events as the result of hidden, malevolent plots rather than specific beliefs in a particular conspiracy theory. It functions as a worldview and mindset, often driven by epistemic needs or understanding uncertainty, existential needs or feeling safe, and social needs or maintaining a positive self-image. This disposition is distinct from specific conspiracy beliefs, showing more stable, normal distributions and less ideological influence. Now, the reason that I think that this is dangerous, we just don't live in a vacuum where you can kind of believe whatever and it has no consequences. The idea that there's always a hidden nefarious agenda behind everything that we see is, I think, in modern times being used to prevent people from really recognizing what's actually happening. So when you see a thing that's happening on the news, especially in 2025, or probably more so in the last decade, but here in America, we've got this problem, in my opinion, where many people do not acknowledge what they're seeing and think that there's some kind of nefarious undertones or, behind closed doors, things happening that are, and this is what we're led to believe or meant to believe, and not be aware of the actual nefarious goings on or whatever. Now, I don't want to say, and I definitely don't believe that there are no conspiracies, because of course they are. We can just think about, we know of that there's political think tanks. And so, there's just many places where people, in boardrooms of companies, where people are making decisions and putting forth a public message that is either contradictory or just different from their actual intentions or agenda. And so I'm absolutely not saying that this doesn't happen, but to be in the mindset where you think that that is always the case is being used, I think, to divert people from actually recognizing the reality in front of their faces. There's a lot of there's this phrase that people use, and sometimes in the religious context, and also sometimes when this current administration talks about things where you can't believe what you see and hear. The reality is something different. Or, the other phrase, don't believe your lying eyes, or your lying eyes and ears, So I just hope that everyone practices critical thinking, and you should look that up, because critical thinking is perhaps a little more in depth than the average understanding of it. Or just when you say, I tell you, you use critical thinking, that doesn't just mean, being skeptical or disbelieving in general. It means setting aside your potential biases and approaching things from as close to objective as possible. Although true objectivity is pretty impossible for the human, because our brains just don't work like that, and we have a tendency to utilize all of our previous experiences and beliefs and ideologies when I guess processing or considering new ideas, and our conclusions that we draw from them, or rather the interpretations, so this is what leads people to be able to look at the same story on the news and draw dramatically different conclusions. If we were all utilizing critical thinking, we would all probably end up with fairly close to the same conclusions, and then also not be so not be unwilling to be wrong about that. That's part of it too, is, are you willing to be wrong about your suspicions about something? And so I really think that's a great position to start with, is, you can have strong feelings and beliefs about a thing, but never so much so that you're not willing to be wrong or replace that sentiment once you receive new information. And that is ultimately what is happening now. I think people are kind of being locked into this space in their minds where they will not take in new information or change their interpretation of a thing based on new information once they like what they have concluded, or or it might be embarrassing to have a new idea, or rather to say that I was wrong about a thing that I've previously been pretty strongly persuaded by. So I'm not going to talk about any specific conspiracy theories in this episode, but I will be delving into a myriad of different things in my content in the future. So if you like this, please follow or subscribe, and hopefully I'll be able to take you all along this journey with me. So thank you for watching.